The Valley Rebellion, a fight against HOA tyranny. The gravel crunched under my boots, but the familiar pine scent of my Colorado Valley was gone, replaced by the sharp tang of fertilizer and a woman's overpowering perfume. I'd been away for 3 years, working oil rigs to pay for my mom's care, only to return to a chained driveway and a private community sign blocking the road my great-grandfather carved in 1923. 8 gleaming mansions now scarred my pristine valley, their manicured lawns a mockery of the wildflower meadows I remembered. Then she stepped out of her white Range Rover, clipboard in hand, blonde hair sharp as a razor, and a smile that could freeze a river. "You're trespassing on private property," she said, like she owned the mountain. Little did she know, I didn't just own my old cabin. I held the mineral rights under every one of her precious estates. My name's Jack Harlan, 48, a man who spent decades on oil rigs from Texas to North Dakota, hands stained black and back aching by 40. My great-grandfather homesteaded this valley, 320 acres of rugged Colorado wilderness, anchored by a log cabin built to withstand a century of storms. It wasn't just a house. It was a legacy of self-reliance, where 3 generations of Harlans learned the world owes you nothing. When Mom got Alzheimer's, I poured every paycheck into a Denver care facility, working North Dakota's frozen fields while she forgot my name. She passed 6 months ago, peaceful at last, and I came home to reclaim my humanity. But the valley I found wasn't mine anymore. Where wildflowers once bloomed, artificial lawns sprawled. The air reeked of chemicals, not nature. Leading this invasion was Margaret Voss, 54, a Dallas real estate shark with a blonde bob and a smile that sized you up like a used car. 2 years ago, her shell company snatched up land, slapped up mansions, and crowned her queen of Pine Hollow Estates. She handed me a stack of violation notices for my cabin, 47 of them, demanding $73,500 for things like non-compliant roof color, my great-grandfather's weathered cedar, and unauthorized landscaping, God's own wildflowers. The fines would climb $500 a day until I complied. Her tone dripped with disdain, calling me transient and a threat to property values. She didn't know I owned the mineral rights under her entire development, a fact that would soon turn her world upside down. What would you do if someone locked you out of your own land? Have you faced an HOA nightmare? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I know some of you have worse stories. I drove my battered F-250 to the county courthouse, diesel engine coughing. Betty Marshall, the clerk since forever, welcomed me with sympathy but grew grim when I asked about the HOA. Politics moved fast on that development, she said. The HOA documents, filed 18 months ago, were a dictator's dream, controlling everything from mailbox colors to guest visits. But my signature was nowhere to be found. In Colorado, HOAs need unanimous consent from all property owners to bind them. My land wasn't included, and Margaret's rules didn't apply. Driving home under a starlit sky, one question burned. How did she think she could control a century-old homestead? A week later, sipping coffee on my porch, I heard tires on gravel. Margaret's Range Rover led 2 BMW SUVs, her architectural committee, armed with cameras and clipboards. Dressed in pristine hiking gear, she announced a mandatory compliance inspection under Section 4.7 of bylaws I never signed. Her team snapped photos of my cabin, truck, even my woodpile, muttering about aesthetic disasters. I stood, coffee in hand. "This is private property. You're not invited." Her smile turned predatory. "We have authority." I cut her off. "Not on my land, which you never legally included. Get out." Her face flushed, but she retreated, tossing a threat. "You'll regret this, Mr. Harlan." The next day, my mailbox exploded with 14 new violation notices, fines for my great-grandfather's outhouse, my truck, even my firewood stack. But the photos' metadata revealed they'd been sneaking onto my land for days, planning their attack. I bought trail cameras from Radio Shack, setting up 6 with night vision and audio. Within 48 hours, I caught Margaret and her cronies trespassing at dawn, plotting to stack violations and fake environmental complaints to force me out. In Colorado, trespassing evidence voids their claims. Game on. I called Earl Thompson from County Health when they filed a septic violation. He tested my system and laughed. "Cleaner than most new installs." Someone's lying. I handed him a USB of camera footage, including Margaret's plan to fake contamination reports. 2 days later, county trucks and a news van rolled up, tipped off about health hazards and structural collapse. The setup reeked of Margaret's orchestration, complete with a reporter interviewing her nearby. I showed the reporter my footage, exposing her trespassing and lies. The inspectors found nothing wrong. My septic was pristine, my cabin solid as granite. I suggested they check the mansion's runoff instead. The reporter's eyes lit up. This is quite a story. Margaret escalated, cutting my power by claiming electrical violations. Then came a 47-page lawsuit from her husband's firm, Voss, Carter and Associates, demanding $250,000 for damaging property values. Amateur move. They claimed damages from January, when I wasn't even in Colorado. At the county library, I dug into Margaret's past. She'd run this scam in Texas, Florida, and Arizona, buying cheap land, fast-tracking permits, harassing residents with HOAs, and forcing sales at a loss. But she missed one thing. My great-grandfather's 1923 patent included mineral rights for 1,280 acres, covering her entire development. Those rights, worth $50 to $200 million, gave me legal power to access my holdings, trumping her HOA. I hired Laura Bennett, a property rights attorney who thrives on underdog cases. She uncovered that Pine Hollow's permits were illegal, issued without mineral rights notifications. Margaret's LLC had funneled $2 million into shell companies, likely embezzled. Laura filed an emergency injunction to halt HOA actions and contacted an FBI task force investigating property fraud. The valley became a federal crime scene. FBI, IRS, and EPA swarmed Pine Hollow, arresting Margaret's allies, including a corrupt county commissioner, Hank Grayson. Margaret tried fleeing to Mexico with $3 million in cash, but customs agents nabbed her. Her lawsuit against me, the FBI, and others was a 47-page rant, claiming I was a federal plant. Her husband, facing charges, abandoned her. At trial, Judge Ellen Carter sentenced Margaret to 25 years without parole, $69 million in restitution, and asset forfeiture. The courtroom gasped as she collapsed, screaming I'd destroyed everything. Federal agents dismantled her $23 million fraud empire, recovering funds for 43 families across 6 states. The valley healed, wildflowers returned, mansions got eco-upgrades, and a new voluntary HOA formed with transparent rules. I used forfeited assets to start the Pine Hollow Community Foundation, funding scholarships, conservation, and a veterans retreat where soldiers learn survival skills in my cabin. 6 months later, sipping coffee on my porch, I watched the sunrise. Neighbor Amos Carter, 73, stopped by, grinning about Grayson's 8-year sentence. The valley was peaceful, nature reclaiming what Margaret stole. My case sparked a national movement, with the Harlan Act proposed to protect homeowners. As I read a message from a Montana veteran facing his own HOA battle, I knew the fight wasn't over. Bullies win when good people stay silent. I typed a reply, ready to help the next guy stand his ground. What do you think about standing up to injustice? Have you faced bullies who abused power, whether in HOAs or elsewhere? Share your stories and thoughts in the comments. Do you believe fighting back is worth it, or is it better to walk away? Let's talk about justice and how far we should go to protect what's ours.